This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to be speaking with Julianne Nicholson about Paradise. How are you, Julianne?
Hi, Abe. I'm great. Thank you.
Sinatra is a very specific and memorable type of character. What do you like most about her?
I have to say, I love many things about her. One of the things I love about her is what a complex and layered individual she is. But I do love how she can like control a room, let's say. It's been really fun to play someone with such yeah, with such power and confidence while also being deeply vulnerable and um yeah, wounded.
How much did you know about the character going into it? Did you know the full arc and what she
No,
was
I'm
doing?
still, Abe, I'm still discovering what's like, I feel like I've heard a couple of things about the season two, which has started filming and I'll go out in a couple of weeks, but I'm like, oh, that would have been interesting to know. But anyway, it's been so fun to hear, to continue to go back into the story of the creation of Paradise and what it took to build it. And um yeah, there's much more to discover.
I feel like it's such a big world, and we're really only seeing it with her through the prism of three other characters. We have Sterling's character, we have Sarah's character, we have James's character, and they're all such different personalities. I feel like James, the president, is the least intense in some ways because he is the public persona, whereas the other two sort of operate in the background, which I think is what Sinatra is much more comfortable with.
Totally. Yeah. I know. I think that it's really interesting to be able to play those different storylines with and having such, as you say, such different relationships with each one of them. Um and it's just, yeah, with each one of them, the audience discovers more about her and I discover more about her as we do the scenes.
And going into season two, I think it's something exciting because I know you've done a lot of film work, but also a lot of TV work. But most of the TV has been limited to either limited series or one season. You haven't had a lot of. I mean, I think the Red Road lasted for two seasons, but there's haven't had too much of a chance to go as deep with these characters in the past.
You're right. Thanks for mentioning it. It's true. I know I've done a lot of television, but never for. I mean, I think the most I've ever done was like 22 episodes for Law and Order Criminal Intent. But even that was broke, but that was a whole other. That's not that. That was over the course of 3 seasons or 2.5 seasons. I still only did that many. I love being able to go deeper into the character work and discovering who she is. And I'm really excited to get back and start filming again and yeah, bring her to life.
I feel like there is a sort of sci-fi-ish element to the show, and I'm curious how much that plays into what the world feels like and whether that's just a setting or if that really impacts the type of character you're playing and the universe overall.
I think it very much affects the universe overall, and I think we go even sort of deeper in that direction in season two. But I feel like for Sinatra so far, I don't have to play that. It's just taking it scene by scene. And it's more the universe and the world of Paradise that gives us that sci-fi flair. But I do think we go deeper and deeper into it as the story continues. And the world both pre-Paradise and how it came to be built, but then sort of like the post-apocalyptic, like what's happening now outside the bunker. It's quite an interesting mashup.
I also think that anybody who watched This Is Us would be like, oh, Dan Fogelman and Sterling K. Brown getting back together. But this is not, I think, what anybody would have expected. Like, this is not This Is Us. This is as far from that as this could be.
I know. I think that was probably one of the things that was so exciting for Sterling, and it just speaks to Dan's unbelievable talent that he can, which I discover more and more as the story is unfolding for me. Also, I'm just like, wait, this is not a family drama. This is like um, lots to hold at one time.
What was your impression of Sterling before this, and how is it different to work with him?
I was a huge fan of his anyway. I think I first watched him in OJ, where he was just like incredible. And then also just seeing him anytime I see him speaking in public or like acceptance speeches, he just pops. His energy is so magnetic and beautiful and generous. And actually, we had a situation where we were both, I've went to the Emmys in 2001, and it was the first Emmys after like COVID, after like it was the first in-person awards show for a year and a half or whatever it was. And it was very small. Like there weren't, I don't think really agents were there, PR people weren't there, so it was like shrunken because it was still COVID. And people, actors were like cutting in line to get onto the red carpet for photos. Like it was bad news because like the show was about to start and people are suddenly like, it's like the Titanic. And it was so like ugly. And it was Sterling's voice that rang out above the crowd saying, there will be no cutting. No cutting. There is a line and we will respect the line. And it was just, I mean, I think some people did respect the line and some people probably still didn't, but it was just to have like a voice of reason and a voice of the just feels just like a clear example of him to me. It's sort of, and then we saw each other later in the night. We had never met, and he said, "Hey, can I have a hug?" And I was like, yes. So it was just a nice meeting.
That's great. I also like Sarah Shahi a lot. I feel like I've been following her on a number of TV shows too, and it's great to see this is a role I think I would have expected a lot more for her than necessarily for Sterling.
Yeah, I think she's so wonderful. I love our scenes together. She's such a beautiful person, and um she actually told me a story, or was when we were doing press or something, where she was a massive fan of This Is Us and had actually emailed Dan like 14 years ago or whenever, it's 10 years ago. I can't remember when in the run of the show or if it was when the show ended, and just said what a fan she was, and if she could ever, if there were any role for her, like she would do anything small or whatever, just wanted to be a part of it. So I think it was really exciting for her to work with him. And he remembered, I think when she went in to meet with him, he was like, yeah, Sarah Shahi, I remember, of course. And that so speaks to both of them, who they are.
Well, I was watching some other shows this season. I had the chance to see the entire season of Hacks. And midway through, there was this new character, this dance mom. And I was like, oh, that's Julianne Nicholson. What an interesting little guest appearance. But this is sort of a strange part for her. And then I kept going with the rest of the season. It was just, tell me how, especially going from Paradise to Hacks, how this all happened and where your dance talents come from.
Yeah, well, those dance towns, that doesn't come easy. It doesn't come cheap. No, I'm joking. Well, I'm a huge fan of Hacks. I love it. It's like the best comedy on TV as far as I'm concerned. I just think they're so smart, so funny, and they had reached out once before to see if I could, if I had time to be a part of it, and I couldn't. And I'm so relieved because I loved playing Dance Mom so much. She is so out of her mind. She brought so much joy. I just think I had a Zoom with Lucia and Jen and Paul, and they described what they had in mind for that character. And I never get asked to do anything funny. Only, anyway. So they were able to sort of condense the days. Yeah, and so I jumped at the chance and it was so fun. I worked with a choreographer here. I live in England, so this guy and Corey Baker, who I just loved, and he came up with those dances so quickly and organically, and then it was just a matter of like repetition, repetition, repetition. And he was my cheerleader. Corey just was there when through all of it, and he helped me enormously. And then also just the generosity of those creators and that cast and crew. They were just so welcoming and just made me feel like one of the family. It was such a pure joy to be there.
How does it feel to, I mean, as somebody who's been on talk shows yourself, how does it feel to perform in front of an audience that's an audience of
That was so like I don't Yeah, what? It was so is that meta? What is that? Well, it was very surreal for one. And I was scared. I was scared to dance for like when I have to that's was very scary. But even the audience, like the background artists were like also they were so good and they were like clapping and cheering me. So I was like, "Yay, they're cheering for me." Of course, somebody there is like, "Okay, time." But it was really, yeah, surreal and hilarious. I also worked with Eric Balfour on this show called Conviction, this Dick Wolf show, like I don't know, 18 years ago maybe. And so he has a role too, as you saw. And so that was really fun to be reunited with him for a minute also.
I also
Very
had the
silly.
chance. I had the chance to see the first episodes of Hacks at Paley Fest, which was fun with a big audience, and there was a panel afterwards, and Meg Stalter basically participated in the panel as if she's the star, like the only star of the show. And so I have to imagine that getting to share scenes with her is difficult because she's so funny, but also quite memorable.
Yeah, most of my stuff is with Paul and Megan, and it's so amazing how, how they make that show. And, someone off camera will just say, okay, say this, say that. And Megan and Paul are just like, okay, they take it in and then just like throw it right back out again. And it was just, they're hilarious. I felt like I was watching the show when I was in a scene with them. So I was just like, I had to remember like, oh, no, I have to pay attention. It's my turn to speak because I was just and loved watching them.
Well,
Really
there's
cool.
lots of great TV we've talked about, including The Red Road, which I just want to mention again, which is a really great show that I hope more people, I don't even know if it's available to watch somewhere anymore, but such a great show.
Thank you. That's so nice. I don't hear that one mentioned very often. I loved making that show. I thought it was pretty interesting, actually, that one.
Well,
Thanks.
moving over to film, I was a freshman at NYU in the fall of 2006 and spent a lot of time going to the Angelica Film Center. And there was a trailer that played before every single movie I saw there. I don't know if you
With the
can
flannel
present it.
pajamas.
It was flannel pajamas that basically, with all these accolades, it was my first time going to like this independent theater all the time. I also saw Puccini for Beginners, which I really loved.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
those two films, I'm just curious, Justin Kirk, that was like a very specific moment in time, almost 20 years ago now. How did those live in your memory?
Whoa, you are literally taking me back in time. Walk down memory lane. Those two just came about by chance, like around the same time, but I think of them very fondly. I love Justin Kirk deeply. I also love Elizabeth Reeser, who's the star of Puccini for Beginners, who's also good friends with Justin Kirk. And so I had, lunch with them when I was in LA last. So I don't see Justin that often, but it's like no time has passed whenever we're in each other's company again. And those two films went to Sundance, which was the first time I went to Sundance. So that was a big deal for me because I had been acting already for, I don't know, like we'll just call it a number of years. And being invited to Sundance, especially for the first time, it's a huge deal for any actor and especially someone who's, come up in independent film and so loves independent film. I lived on Mott between Houston and Prince from 1990 to 94 when there was like no stores over there, but I would go to Angelica once a week on a Wednesday and just go see whatever was running next. And so we share that memory. I loved that. I love that theater. Um, I went there for this movie I did called Monos. It had a premiere there, and that was like hugely special also. Like I love New York in the 90s and the aughts. Like it's a very evocative time for me there. So cool. I love that.
Also,
Though I
Monos is its
yeah.
own like thing. That's like you have a very, very interesting filmography. Just some of the things that you've done are just so like, especially that because I feel like that you would expect that to be like a foreign language film where you wouldn't know anybody, but then you're there and it's like a very intense. I have to imagine that shoot was pretty grueling for that one.
That was the craziest film I've ever done. Like that was, I mean, when people talk about, guerrilla filmmaking, I mean, this was what that was. Like we were literally in the jungle, um, like miles away from anything. We had one satellite phone, like no Wi-Fi, obviously. Like I jumped in that river every day, but I had to take a donkey out of there. It was bananas. Like possibly not always. I'm happy everybody made it made it out alive. But I also love that movie. It was deeply special to make it, and being in Colombia, which is such a beautiful country and such warm, generous, hilarious people. I just feel so grateful, and just I had a lot of solitary time, and it was deeply affecting experience, which I do think you can kind of see in the film.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like we probably touched on that, but are there other projects, whether they're series or films from your past that you feel like you wish people brought up randomly in the middle of an interview that you weren't expecting?
Um, well, I did these two films with a director called Matt Newton. One was called From Nowhere, another one is called Who We Are Now. And I think he's a really interesting filmmaker. And I felt like he also kind of brought the best out of me in those two roles, and I love those stories. So those are fun ones, but it's always fun to hear, even Red Road is one, as I said, I never hear that one. So it is fun to be like, oh yeah, it's when have been doing it for as long as I have, like I'm so grateful. And then you kind of just take it for granted that those are back there, but when particular ones are brought up, it's nice. So thank you.
Of course. You're also still doing stuff like Dream Scenario, Janet Planet, A24, that kind of stuff, which I feel like that's the evolution of, flannel pajamas and all that to what we have now.
Yeah. Yeah, I just one foot in front of the other. Just keep moving forward.
What do you have coming up next aside from season two of Paradise?
Um, right now, that's all. I have a couple of things that are um a couple of maybes, but that's all I have at the moment. That's all I'm doing at the moment. So, but hopefully I have it. I'm just sort of I have two TV shows that I'm hoping to get off the ground, and um yeah, I also have two children who are almost 16 and 17, and I've been very selective about as selective as I could be about work, because I feel I'm like literally like dying, because I feel like they're about to, go into their own lives. And so when they're in college and not living at home anymore, I might be able to like play around a bit more.
Well, do you have time to watch anything? Are there TV shows that you found you enjoy watching?
Um, sure. Well, Hacks. I'm so excited Hacks is back on. Of course, I can't wait for the next season of Beef to come out. I loved that first season of Beef. I thought that was amazing. I loved Ripley. I thought that was so good. Um, RuPaul's Drag Race. My daughter and I have literally just watched we're like on season 17 now. We've watched all the episodes of all the seasons and all the All Stars in the last like 2 years. So I'm actually relieved it's coming to an end, because now we'll get our time back. Yeah. What about you? What are you loving at the moment?
That's a good question. No, there's a lot of great stuff. I really did like Hacks. I think The Last of Us that just came back, that's another one that I've only seen one episode, looking forward to more and just trying to catch up on everything that's up there. There's so much stuff out there. It's if you miss 1 week of the year, a film festival, you miss some TV, there's just so much to catch up on, and it's an exciting time to be covering television.
Yeah, that's nice. That's good. That's good. I'm happy to hear you feel that way.
But more importantly, it's great to revisit wonderful underseen films like Flannel Pajamas and Puccini for Beginners. So I'm
Exactly. Thank you
very
for that.
grateful to you for that. So it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Julianne. So nice to meet
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Abe. What a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much.